Welcome back, guys. This is OC from Bamcomixs with another movie review, and this time we're getting into the Batman. So if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and hit that subscribe, and don't forget to hit those notifications because that's going to let you know every time we post a new video. So without further ado, let's get into it.
5 years later.
Now, I know that we had a lot of absence between our videos. We decided to take a little bit of a break from YouTube, but we're back, and I couldn't let the opportunity pass without talking about this movie, The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz. It is an amazing movie. The Batman was by far one of the most anticipated movies of the year. I think now it's been out in theaters for like a month. The things that I didn't like about this film, really nothing. There was not something that I did not like about this movie. I thought that everything was so well done. So let's get into what I loved and why I think it is amazing. Number one, the story. The story revolving Batman's second year as a crime fighter in Gotham City. It's so interesting because you see Batman coming from a place of low tech, and he's sort of like in this experimental phase. He also has a notebook, a journal that he chronicles his crime fighting nightly patrols, and it's just so very interesting that you see Batman keep a journal of all of the things that are happening every night for 2 years. And it's sort of an experiment, a social experiment. He still has the tragedy, of course, of his parents that he carries throughout his life, but he's really taking this war on crime so seriously, in fact, that, you know, when you see in the when he's in the Batcave, everything is really just like handmade. Everything, the car, I'm not saying that he made the car, right? But like he puts armor plating on it, and like everything has this homemade feel to it. I really appreciated that. Let's talk about the story, guys. The story was amazing. For year two, it was so fitting that we see Batman at the street level, and then he gets sucked into this murder mystery detective noir pulp storyline where Batman, the film opens with him narrating over Gotham City on Halloween night. And there's so, like, Matt Reeves did such a good job calling into the mythos of Batman by taking the comics. The Long Halloween was something that when I was watching this movie, I saw shades of that. I saw shades of work from Lee Bergermo, who drew the Joker. We're going to talk about that deleted scene. It's just so exciting just to see how Matt Reeves really is taking the character of Batman and making it his own. We've seen Batman movies in the past. We've seen different styles, but this is by far the darkest that we have seen. It seems like Batman gets darker with every iteration, but this one is by far the darkest and by far my most favorite Batman film. As you know, the movie's almost 3 hours long, and it does follow Batman through his second year in Gotham City as the Dark Knight, as the Cape Crusader, what have you, and then he has his own signal. And like the way the movie starts, it just reminds me of like it's so great that you don't see Batman, you don't see Bruce Wayne. The movie just, the way the movie opens over the city, it's just brilliant because you see all of the characters in the city, you see the people, and Gotham has never looked better. In this movie, it's more of a fusion between like it reminded me of like Blade Runner, like a modern Gothic. Like it had like Times Square, but at the same time it had the Gothic architecture, and it's just so beautiful. The majority of this movie is at night, so all the scenes are very dark. Scenes in the club, scenes outside the club, Iceberg Lounge, the 44 Below. Everything is like dark. It's like dark, 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 dark. But you do see glimpses of the light when Batman is on the rooftop with Gordon or Catwoman, that you see the light coming up, you know, you see the dawn, and it's just so beautiful. The story, I mean, we're not going to rehash all of the story here. We're not going to, like, you know, summarize everything, but suffice to say that Batman gets dragged into this murder mystery from the Riddler. So he's investigating the murder of the mayor, and then the subsequent murders that follow, because at the heart of the murder mystery, at the heart of this killing, we find that there is a man similar to Batman who also wants to take on the corruption and injustices of the system. So while Batman, I found it interesting that the story presents that dichotomy between Batman and the Riddler. That Batman is fighting crime on the street level, whereas the Riddler, he's taking his crime fighting to new heights. He's taking it to the elite. So we're talking about the DA of Gotham, the police commissioner, and of course the mayor, and any of the high-profile society, the families, the high-profile families of Gotham City. The story revolves around these murders and the game that's being played. It's almost a game of cat and mouse, a chess game that's being played between the Riddler and Batman. So far, Batman has been out again for 2 years already. And he's made quite an impact that one of the police officers, Gordon, James Gordon, who's not the commissioner, he's not the commissioner yet, but sparks enough faith in this man Gordon to actually believe in the Batman as a symbol of fear to the criminal element in Gotham City. What the audience doesn't know is that now Batman will be coming into his first major case. Okay, I thought Batman had cases prior. No, this seems to be his first major case. And what more fitting a subject than the Riddler? The Riddler, who has been done before by Jim Carrey in Batman Forever with Two-Face, and now being portrayed by Paul Dano, is absolutely brilliant, guys. It's almost sort of an homage to movies of the David Fincher movies of Seven and Zodiac. We have a serial killer on the loose in Gotham City, and Batman, all of his wits, all of his know-how and knowledge is put to the test. It's not muscles, okay? It's not constant fighting scenes. And I think the length of this movie is good because for 2 reasons. One, it allows the viewer to be fully immersed in the world of Batman as an experience, okay? The previous Batman movies, I would see them and I would feel like a passive viewer in the situation. In this movie, I felt like I was part of an active criminal investigation with Batman as he and Gordon try to piece together the puzzles that the Riddler has set. Now, the Riddler is calling Batman out because he would like Batman's help in bringing down one of the most corrupt figures in Gotham City. Actually, a couple of them. And I think it was just absolutely brilliant, guys. The story on point. And in the story, we also see villains from Batman's Rogue Gallery. We see Catwoman, portrayed by Zoe Kravitz, who did an amazing job. We see Colin Farrell's Penguin and the awesome transformation. And it's pulling in Penguin, Catwoman, Falcone, you know, and the Riddler. And it's weaving this tapestry of just an amazing story where all of these characters can interact and they come in together. So that's the first reason why I think the length was appropriate, right? It gives the viewer a chance to be part of this investigation. The second reason I think is great is because the Riddler's plan, it just can't, it's an overarching plan. Just when you think that Batman has the Riddler figured out, the Riddler pulls up another plan on top of the plan that he already had to tear down and unmask Gotham. the story pieces of it where you see so much corruption in the city that this one person has had enough and he decides to unmask it, and that is the Riddler. At the heart of this corruption in the families is a program called Renewal, and that program was supposed to have billions of dollars that was donated by Thomas Wayne for social programs in Gotham City to cut the red tape. Unfortunately, Renewal became a slush fund for criminals and all types of corrupt politicians to take advantage of with no oversight. So Batman is playing a very dangerous game. Detective Batman is something that I've really wanted to see. They showed shades of that in other films, but in this film, which could have easily been called Batman Year 2, you know, and this is the read that I'm going to be looking into after the video, Batman Year 2, I'm excited about that, is that Batman as a detective is very attractive to see, right? We're so used to seeing Batman in movies. He uses his intellect. He uses in the Nolan trilogy his abilities to detect, but in this one it's just like full force. It's like he is actually doing the real detective work, because it's so meticulous, because Riddler is leaving him the cards and the messages and he has to piece it together. And the characters, Paul Dino as the Riddler was great. You may have seen his work in Prisoners, so he's a great actor for that. Zoe Kravitz is great as the Catwoman. She has that femininity, sexuality, and raw strength. She reminded me of the Jim Lee drawings of Catwoman. Very great with that short hair. Robert Pattinson, who I've always known was going to be great as Batman, for the mere fact that when I saw Robert in Good Time, or I saw Patterson in Good Time, I said, wow, this guy is amazing. Like, I've seen him in Twilight. Obviously, everyone has that Twilight. Is he going to shine? Is he going to be a shiny Batman? No, like, he actually is a real actor. The Lighthouse, Good Time. He's great. So, working in those independent movies, and now on the big screen, Robert Pattinson has solidified himself as the new Bruce Wayne Batman, but the young Bat. I really like him as this young Batman. The idea that Batman is still rough, right? That he still has this rough edge to him, even when he's fighting. Right in the beginning, when you see that Batman descends on these criminals, he doesn't even swoop down. Batman is knocking on doors. You know, he's going into Batman is actually knocking on doors, something that Batman doesn't do. So you see Batman in the beginning, Year 2, he's still very, he's still very rough. He's still very rough a lot around the edges, and you see that Robert did such a good job acting as Batman, using his eyes. There's so many times in this movie where Batman doesn't speak, but he says volumes with his eyes, the way he looks at people, the way he looks at Catwoman, the way he looks at the police officers. And he's communicating with his eyes. So a lot of that acting, that was just great. Now, as Bruce Wayne, also I think he does a good job. You see that he has sensitivity to light. He's been doing this for 2 years. He's been a shadow. He's been a drifter. He's been actually living on the edge, so much so that Alfred, who, again, wonderful casting as in Alfred, who was also in the Planet of the Apes movie. So Matt Reeves, who did Planet of the Apes movie, brought him aboard to be Alfred, and he's great. So we know that Alfred told him, if you keep doing this, there's going to be nothing left of you, Bruce. You need to think of your family's legacy. Bruce says, this is my family's legacy, is what I'm doing is my family's legacy. And you see it's worn on him, right? You see the makeup that he uses. They say goth emo. No, I mean, he wears his cowl. He needs to have that makeup under the cowl to be extra menacing. But he does have sensitivity to light because he spends most of his time outside in nighttime, and in daytime is, I guess, where he rests. In night, he goes out. The characters were great. Falcone was the Penguin. Oh my God. You see, this is why I don't know if we have enough time just for this one video to talk about the Batman. Penguin was amazing. Penguin, I heard, is going to get his own spin-off on HBO Max. So when this movie comes to HBO Max, we're going to see Matt Reeves continue to explore the world of Gotham City in HBO Max with Penguin, or a series focused on Arkham Asylum, which would be amazing. So I'm eagerly anticipating that. It's always raining in Gotham City, so the foreshadowing to come that the flood is gonna come and wash everything away. So Matt, he's telegraphing. It's dark. It's always raining in Gotham, and by the end of the movie, Gotham is flooded. Brilliant visuals, the Batmobile, the sound. The sound was great. You hear the Batmobile powering up for the first time. I lost it. It was wonderful. Let's talk about Batman's suit, okay? Batman's suit, again, we're coming from this homemade place. Bruce hasn't met Lucius Fox, who is his main weapons designer and one of the chief scientists at Wayne Tech, who actually is responsible for developing many of the technologies that Bruce uses to fight crime. He hasn't met Lucius yet, so his technology is still very low tech, but functional and practical. I love when the scene when Batman races up to the top of the police precinct building when the police are chasing him, and you see the movie is so detailed that when you see it again for the second time, or you even see it the third time, you pick up all of these little details that you missed. And I was watching it the second time with my friend, and when Batman, when he ran to the top of that building and he got to the edge of it, he sort of like, you saw in his face fear. And my friend turned to me and was like, oh, he's scared, this is Batman. But then I turned to him and I said, listen, this is probably the first time that Batman has jumped off of a off of a platform like that high. Like he's never jumped off probably of a building of this height before. So when he gets to the top of it, you see him pause a bit. He looks over there and she goes like kind of like that, like surprise. So that was the only break in character like of Batman's demeanor that I saw in the film, was when he reached the top of that. Then you see his face of terror. That was like the only break in his demeanor of being very serious, right? Batman's very intimidating, very serious. But when he reaches the top of that building and he's about to jump off, you see in his face like, oh my goodness. And then he takes like 1 second, he breathes, and then he pulls on the cord. You see his jumpsuit, which is a flight suit, and then he jumps off of that building. And you see in that police precinct, all of the police are like, oh my goodness. He swoops down. Batman pulls his chute too early, lands under a bridge. There's like a bus passing by, and you see he gets seriously hurt in that scene. Okay? It felt really good to see Batman make mistakes and get things wrong and not be this, overpowered, perfect crime-fighting machine that he's sometimes, or most of the time, portrayed as. Batman here, he's still trying to perfect his Batman. Again, and the suit which is homemade, you see that Bruce is doing this crime-fighting, sociological or whatever experiment that he's taking he's trying to shut down crime. Inspires copycats, right? Inspires copycats, and Paul Dano, who plays the Riddler, is one of these copycats, and he also has a suit, and it's also homemade. So I thought that was great how this Riddler was different from the previous Riddler. This Riddler was a much more psychotic but controlled and methodical genius. He was actually a forensic accountant. He carries around 2 ID badges, and you see that heavy David Fincher influence from the Seven movies, from the Zodiac movies, and you see his apartment. And so Riddler he has the same ideas as Batman. They're two different characters, but with the same goal of ending corruption and criminality, whereas Riddler actually kills people, and he and he gets his masks. He uses duct tape. That's his main one of his main things. He gets his mask from the army supply store. His whole costume is homemade, and he is a streamer. You know, he has 500 followers or whatever. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and let's get more likes and subscribes than the Riddler, guys. We can do it, okay? Let's talk about Barry. He totally transformed too in that deleted scene, which Matt Reeves took out, which was good that Matt took that out because it would have been focused too much on the Joker, and we've had a lot of Joker in the past. We've even had a Joker movie, so it's kind of time to kind of press brakes on the Joker. He won't be the focus of the second film. He'll be more coming into the third, from what I understand and what I've read about in the forums. But the fact is that now Batman has to face a greater enemy. Now that Batman has been flooded, there's going to be various crime organizations that are going to be fighting for control of Gotham. Penguin being one of them. Now that he's out from under Falcone, Penguin can now be his own boss. The Joker was great. I mean, we've had Joker in the past, so it's a little bit Jokered out now. We've even had a Joker movie, so it was good that it was a deleted scene, and I don't think that the Joker is going to be the focus of the second movie, just because from what I've read in the forums that Joker is going to be moved toward the third movie. There's going to be a bit of Joker, but this movie gave me heavy like the Long Halloween vibes, where Batman is tracking down this killer he only strikes on the holidays, called the Holiday Killer. And in this movie, you see that Matt Reeves have a lot of heavy inspiration from the pulp with the narration over the city, which he does in the beginning, and then he bookends it at the end of the film where he's like, Bruce says, maybe I have made a difference in Gotham. And the movie ends with Catwoman and Batman separate on their motorcycles, and the day coming, and Batman, you know, I think the second movie is going to continue right where the first movie left off, and yet another copycat or another case that Batman will have to investigate. I hope that all of these movies end up being like detective movies, showcasing Batman's detective prowess and Batman evolving in his technology, especially with his surveillance technology, his equipment, his gadgets, and you're going to see through the progression of these films, Batman evolving. And let's talk about some of those fight scenes in the movie. The scenes that did have fighting in them, I liked it, okay? I think they were done well. Typical Batman standard fare. I mean, there was one scene in the beginning that looks straight out of the Arkham games, where Batman is fighting like 8 people at the same time. I thought that was really cool. The Batmobile chase was great. And remember, he doesn't have this Bat tank that he has in the Nolan movies, where he's pancaking cars on the freeway. This is a modified muscle car. Which is so great. You see, this is similar to Batman's, you know, if you look in Batman's history, like when Batman is just starting out, the car is similar to the one that's drawn in the comics. I have to talk about the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, because this movie, to me, just takes it to another level. Okay, in the previous movies, we've had Batman Returns, Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer. That's going to be the legendary. That one is going to be, of course, at the top. But this one also equals it to me at the top, just because of the fight scene between Catwoman and Batman. There was such a beautiful choreography between the two actors when they were fighting, that you really see as Catwoman, the cat burglar, as she changes from hospitality or hostess at the 44 Below to changing her whole attire as Catwoman on a motorcycle, and then breaking in to where the mayor was murdered to steal information regarding her friend. And then Batman catches her, and then they began to do this dance. It felt to me more like of a dance than a fight. I think that was great. Batman wasn't in his he wasn't on the offensive. Batman, all of his moves were defensive moves. He was dodging Catwoman at every turn, and I thought that was brilliant. A couple of complaints about this movie that I've heard online, or one major one, was that Robert Pattinson wasn't physically bulked up for this role as Batman, and he doesn't need to be. Okay, that's not the point, right? I mean, this is still a younger Batman. He's not the Frank Miller, Ben Affleck Batman, where he's all bulked up already, okay? And he's older. This is him just starting out, so you have to understand that, you know, he's starting out. But it gives him an agility. You see his back muscles when he's pushing this large table in Wayne Manor to do his infograph on the floor or whatever, to connect the murders in the case. But when you see him fight Catwoman, and he's using his cape, you know, he uses his cape as sort of a block or a distraction, like, and he's dodging her every kick, her every move. And Catwoman in this movie, she is fast. Like, she's fighting, like she's running and jumping off walls and kicking. And then later on in the scene where she's going to wants to kill Falcone, the way Catwoman fights with his thugs, like, she's really, like, she even fights like a cat. You know, she's using her legs as a cat. Like, it's crazy. And so Batwoman, and the music in that scene, like, it was a very short scene when Catwoman was fighting Batman in that movie, but it was maybe like 30 seconds or something. But the music was done so well. The music matched the movements. Watch that scene again, people. You'll see what I'm talking about. And so that chemistry was amazing. This one is amazing. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, guys. Definitely an instant classic to me. So this has been OC from Bamcomixs, guys. Thanks for watching our video. Thanks for all the supporters at home. Stay cool, keep collected, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.